There's so many guys out there today that are absolutely drowning in their own standards. And this is doubly true for the ambitious guys with high expectations of themselves. Basically, they always end up overwhelmed, burnt out, disheartened, and ultimately fail to follow through and become the men that they feel like they're called to be. And there is a big lie that causes these types of guys to stay trapped as a victim to their own goals and expectations. And if you're one of these guys, I want to help you fix that today. And the place that we're going to start looking at this is by examining the world's simplest success formula. It's only 2 steps, okay? And the success formula goes like this. 1, choose your goals. 2, take consistent action on them. Okay? Right? That kind of gets to the heart of what's required to make progress in life. And guys who struggle, with their own expectations kind of just wearing them out, their issue is that they're believing a lie that their problem lies in the second part of that formula, that it's all their issue is that they're not taking enough consistent action, right? They feel like, okay, I know what I want to have happen. I'm just not doing it, or I do it for a little bit and then I stop, and I'm just kind of always ending up grinding against myself and disappointing myself, and they just think that they need more discipline. This is the thing I constantly hear, particularly from the ambitious guys, is they just want to be more disciplined, even though many of them are actually already fairly disciplined to begin with. And so the big truth that actually starts moving the needle for these kinds of guys is realizing that their issue lies in the first part of the formula, the picking your goals. A lot of these guys, they don't actually ever pick their goals. They just have goals and then they pursue them, i.e., all of them, all at once, right? They just list everything that they want and they just expect themselves to be able to go after and grab all of it, just go ahead, do it, right? And then they just enter into a feverish state of action, and eventually they burn out, get overwhelmed, and all that kind of stuff. I was actually on a coaching call with someone the other day, and they were of this mentality, this feeling of like, oh, I know exactly what I want. I want this, that, all these things. And they just kept getting scattered and, disordered and falling off course. And I kind of made it clear to him, it's like, listen, if you focus on everything, then you aren't focusing on anything. Right? And this was like a big shock to him. He's like, I thought like I was right to just go after it all at once. And, if we all had unlimited resources, of course, but we don't, right? We don't have unlimited time resources. We don't have unlimited physical resources. We don't have unlimited emotional and, psychological resources. So that means that we're dealing with a set of constraints, and we have to work with those constraints. And what that means is we need to focus. Right? We need to have a small set of goals, right? Very pointed, very tight. Okay. And it's only when you have that you're going to be able to consistently show up and take action on it and make things happen, because it's going to be manageable. It's going to be doable. It's going to be sustainable. Right. But there's a deeper problem to all this. Like, I think a lot of guys, they recognize this and they look at all the things that they want and they just can't pick, right? They just can't pick. They just feel like, oh, I'm missing out. I'm just missing out if I pick something, right? And if you go really deep in this, there's something more there. There's something kind of messed up and sad about it. And I know this because I've been there and I've worked with a lot of guys when I've taken them all the way down to find the monster at the bottom of the well that's preventing them from focusing. And it's really just a feeling of inadequacy, a feeling of insecurity, where they don't feel good enough. And they feel like they need to just get all these things, accomplish all these things to become good enough. And when you're in this kind of state and you have this sort of deeper seated insecurity where you're not connected to any sort of intrinsic sense of your own dignity, what ends up happening is that you cannot give yourself permission to be on the journey. Right? You cannot be on the journey to being your best self. Instead, you have this pressure on yourself to have already arrived. Ideally yesterday, right? And as long as you're living in this place, then you will never be able to reduce your focus. You will always feel like I need to do it all at once or else I suck. And what that puts you in is in this psychological state of like, grind like a madman and then get disheartened because you can't do it all. At least on an emotional level, you're forced to recognize that because you just run out of steam. And then you just fall back into being someone that you're usually not very proud of being. So how can we fix this? Well, first of all, you got to grant yourself some dignity. You got to realize that regardless of where you're at in chasing your goals, you're a person. You deserve respect. You deserve, to be able to be treated properly. You deserve love. Like, you are good just as you are. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have places to improve. Of course you do. Our goal is to make sure that inherent goodness inside of you gets shown out into every facet of your life. But since you realize that you're already good, you can give yourself permission to take that as a journey, right? We're going to just target the most important things first and make sure those reflect our inherent goodness. And we can just, it's kind of like turning a little diffused light bulb that's casting a dim glow on a whole room into a focused laser beam. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. So that's like the internal shift, is connect with your dignity and give yourself permission to be on the journey. Okay, but then there's the practical piece. How do you want to tackle this? Well, the best way that I've found is it really comes down to setting up quarterly goals, or basically a big goal for the next 90 days. What I found is that 90 days is kind of like the farthest ahead that you can plan with any sort of specificity and still get good results. And so you want to look at the next 90 days and you want to pick one top goal. Okay, one top goal. Now, when I coach people, I let them go up to 3, but usually we want to try and make those second 2 very synergistic with that top goal. But just to keep things simple here, I want you to pick one big, juicy, meaningful goal to you that you want to tackle over the next 90 days. And that means that you are going to prioritize that over all the other things that you feel like you should be doing. And yes, it'll feel a little uncomfortable, but you just got to remind yourself, hey, I can get to those things later. I'm just focusing on this one right now. If my energy's at its limit, guess what? I'm going to let these other goals slide. It's learning how to be comfortable not making progress in some areas, and maybe even getting comfortable accepting a decline in some areas so that the most important places can improve. Okay. And this is something that I've had to come to terms with myself. Back when I quit porn, for example, I played a ton of video games. My productivity wasn't great, but I knew that I needed to take some pressure off myself so that I could actually just quit the porn that was destroying my life in the first place. Right. And once I did that, well, then I was able to start focusing on, getting rid of the video games, getting more productive, all that kind of stuff. And it might be the same thing for you. Maybe in order for you to really get your fitness and your health on point, you might need to actually reduce some of your socializing a little bit. Because, every time you go out, you eat or you drink or whatever. And until you're really solid in your new eating patterns and, lifestyle patterns, maybe you just got to skip certain social events. I don't know, you just basically need to realize what is important to you and prioritize that and give yourself the permission and the grace to do that sort of journey. Now, when I sell guys on this idea that they need to focus, usually the big thing that comes up is well, where should I focus, right? And this is where I would love to help you out. We actually have a new quiz that we put together that's designed to show you where your big bottleneck is in life, where you're leaking energy and you're out of alignment. And all you got to do to get this quiz, and it only takes a few minutes to take, is click the link in the description. All right, just go through that. It'll give you a customized set of results that'll tell you here's probably where you're going to want to make one of your big goals. That's what I have for you guys today. Hope you found this useful. Ooh, yeah. See you on the next one.